The sky was glowing red as if it were on fire, and from above it rained destruction. The last stronghold of the Free Galactic Alliance, called Viralia, was falling apart. Beautiful cities were shattered under heavy bombardment, and tall mountains crumbled into dust. A planet that once had lush forests and bright blue rivers was now nothing but smoke and ruins. High above the surface, the enemy fleet hovered like dark giants. These ships belonged to the Zarn Empire, a ruthless alien race. Their warships had skin like polished black steel and lights that glowed like burning coal. The Zarn were not just winning, they were rejoicing in their destruction. Their troops roamed through the ruined cities, planting their flags and laughing in their strange language. Their commanders shouted speeches full of pride. "We own the galaxy now. The rebellion is dead." But underground, far from their victory cries, someone was still alive. Nira, a young soldier of the feline-like Sirani species, was crawling through the broken halls of an old military base. Her skin was sky blue, scratched and bruised. Her armor was cracked, her arm bleeding, but she kept moving. Her team was gone, her leaders were dead. She was alone now. She dragged herself into a dark, shaking chamber deep below the command center. Smoke hung in the air, and the walls trembled with every distant blast. Something was humming in the corner. Nira raised her small blaster, cautious and afraid. What she saw made her heart beat faster. In the center of the room was a strange old machine. It looked like a metal box covered in wires, glowing symbols, and a single red button that blinked softly. It looked ancient, older than anything she had ever seen. She stepped closer and brushed the dust off. On its side was a metal tag, scratched but readable. Tokyo, only use if all is lost. Nira's eyes widened. Tokyo. She remembered the name from the old stories, tales whispered by elders and veterans. A place on a long-forgotten world called Earth. The legends spoke of a powerful race called humans. They were fierce, brilliant, unstoppable. It was said even the Zarn had once feared them. But those were just bedtime stories, right? Her hands shook as she stared at the blinking button. The rebellion had hidden this machine here, deep under the surface. Did they always know this day would come? Her radio crackled. Zarn voices echoed faintly. They were scanning the tunnels now. Time was running out. She looked up at the ceiling, already cracking. The war was over. The alliance was gone. Her people were finished. She had nothing left to lose. Nira pressed the button. There was a soft beep. Then silence. Nothing. Her heart sank. Had it all been for nothing? Then came a second beep and another. Slowly a soft green light began to glow. Signal sent, awaiting response. She stepped back, staring, waiting. Waiting for what? From where? Suddenly the machine gave off a deeper hum. Then a voice came through, one she had never heard before. Calm, cold, and unmistakably human. Signal received. Identify yourself. Nira. Froze. It was real. Her mouth was dry. Her voice shook. I'm Nira of the Sirani Resistance, Unit 7. Viralia has fallen. The Zarn, they've won. We're finished. There was silence for a few seconds. Then the voice returned. The Muse, curious, Viralia has fallen. And they reached out to a human. Interesting, Nira stepped forward. Are you from Earth? Does Earth still exist? There was a pause. Earth exists, the voice said. And I'm not just from Earth. I am Earth's answer. Suddenly the machine's lights flickered. The signal cut. Nira shouted, "Wait, come back!" But no reply came. Silence returned. Above, the Zarn still celebrated, unaware that deep below, something had been awakened. They danced. They drank. They believed they had crushed the last of their enemies. They didn't know the signal had reached across the stars. They didn't know a human was coming. Far away, beyond the known galaxy, hidden deep in a cold, lifeless star system, an old warship came to life. Lights flickered on. Sleeping engines rumbled awake. A massive dreadnought hidden under layers of rock and asteroid dust began to rise. Its name glowed across the hull. VSS Revenant, Oblivion-class Earth warship. Inside, a man stood silently in the dark. His name was Commander Dorian Reeve. Once he was part of Earth's finest, a leader, a fighter, a ghost, forgotten by the galaxy, abandoned by time. He stared at the terminal in front of him. Virelia has fallen. The Zaan have won. We are finished. Then, does Earth still exist? Dorian's lips curled into a bitter smile. His face was older now, marked with lines. Of age and war, his eyes were cold, sharp. Earth exists, he had said into the machine, and I'm Earth's answer. He stood still, listening to the hum of his ship as it woke up after years in silence. Above Virelia, the Zaan thought. They had ended the fight, but somewhere in deep space an Earth had just begun to fight back. On the ruined surface of Virelia, Nira sat in silence inside the cold bunker. The machine had gone dark. No more beeping. No more voices. She wasn't sure if what happened was real or if it had all been her mind playing tricks on her in a moment of desperation. But deep inside her something had changed, a spark, a feeling she hadn't had in days. Armed troops moved through the tunnels, scanning every inch for survivors. Their patrols were aggressive now. They wanted to be sure no one had made it out alive. Nira stayed low, her hand gripping the machine's edge. She listened carefully. No sound came, just her breathing, just the distant tremble of the Earth. But far away, beyond the reach of the Zaan, the warship VSS Revenant was now fully awake. Deep in space, hidden among broken moons and dead stars, its engines glowed faintly as it moved from its hiding place. Inside, Commander Dorian Reeve walked through the corridors like a man walking through memories. The halls were empty but alive, lights flickering on, systems rebooting. He passed by weapon lockers, control rooms, and old war stations, all untouched for decades. Everything was still clean, still deadly. Earth had disappeared from the galactic maps a long time ago, not because it was destroyed, but because it chose to vanish. Tired of constant wars, tired of betrayals, tired of endless politics, Earth decided to disappear. But they never stopped watching. And Dorian was one of the few left behind to answer if anyone dared call. Now someone. Had he stepped into the main control room. The ship's artificial intelligence, Athena, greeted him with a soft, precise voice. Commander Reeve, long-range jump drive is fully operational. Coordinates set for Virelia. Good, Dorian replied. Engage stealth systems. I want them to see nothing until it's too late. Understood, Athena said. The ship's interface lit up. On the central screen, red dots showed the Zaan fleet. Dozens of warships, thousands of ground troops. But beneath the surface was a single green dot. Nira. She made the call, Dorian whispered to himself. Let's give them our answer. The Revenant drifted silently through space, not making a sound, not giving off a single trace. On the surface of Virelia, Nira heard explosions. The Zaan had found another hiding spot and were eliminating anyone who might still be breathing. She closed her eyes. Her people were gone. The fight was over. But then she remembered the voice, the one that answered when no one else did. The human voice. It had said something strange. That's all you need. Just one human. Was that a warning? A promise? She didn't know, but in that moment she believed it. Back on the Revenant, Dorian suited up. His armor was smooth black, designed for silence. His weapons were simple but powerful. No flashy tech, just pure precision. He wasn't coming with an army. He was the army. As the ship reached the edge of the Virelia system, Athena spoke again. Enemy scout ship detected. Dorian gave a cold smile. Let's say hello. One shot fired. The scout ship vanished from sensors. No lights, no alarms. No survivors. Let's see how they celebrate now, he muttered. In the Zaan capital command center on Virelia, their leaders were still drinking and giving speeches. Medals were being handed out. They believed the galaxy was now theirs. Then, a red warning flashed across the screens. Scout ship now 72. Signal lost. Location, outer Virelia orbit. No cause detected. The room went quiet. One of the generals leaned in, confused. That sector was empty, just dead space. Should we investigate? Another shrugged. Probably a sensor glitch. But the room didn't laugh like before. A strange tension hung in the air. A cold feeling crept into their minds. They didn't know what had come. Inside the fortress at the heart of the Zaan occupation zone, High Warlord Psyche was furious. He stared at the report. "You're telling me the ship was hit by a human weapon?" The technician nodded, shaking. "Yes, Warlord. Based on the energy trail, it's ancient, precise. It matches old Earth tech." Psyche laughed. "Earth? Earth is gone. They left centuries ago. Humans don't fight anymore." But deep down, he felt it too. That cold fear. The technician didn't argue. The data didn't lie. The scout ship was hit by a kinetic slug traveling near the speed of light. No beam, no noise, just brutal force. And only one species used that kind of silent violence. The humans. In the deepest vaults of the Zaan archives, behind locked doors and restricted access, sat the real records of Earth. Not the fake stories shared with their young. Not the lies about Earth's surrender. The truth. The Zaan hadn't defeated Earth. They survived Earth. 300 years ago, humans had become too advanced, too unpredictable. Their warships were invisible, unstoppable. They didn't negotiate. They didn't threaten. They simply acted. After one terrifying war, the Zaan made a desperate deal. "Leave this galaxy, we will never touch your worlds again." And Earth agreed, not out of weakness, but because they were finished with everyone else's madness. But someone had broken the deal. Back underground, Neera moved slowly through the dark tunnels, clutching the old beacon close. It wasn't glowing anymore, but she still held on. She had to. She had seen something in that voice. She had heard certainty. And that kept her moving even when her legs felt like giving up. Then, without warning, the air began to hum. She stopped, heart racing. Was it the Zaan? She backed into a wall, ready to fight if she had to. But then, something strange happened. Soft blue shimmer appeared, slicing through the stone wall ahead. Clean. Silent. A doorway formed, and through the mist stepped a figure. Tall, silent, dressed in black armor that seemed to absorb all light. The helmet had no face, just the shape of a skull. Neera couldn't breathe. She had heard tales of humans, cruel ones, wild ones, brilliant ones. But this one? This was different. He didn't look at her with pity, not even kindness, just purpose. This human scanned the room once, then spoke. His voice was deep and calm. "You sent the call." She nodded quickly. "Then stay behind me," he said. And without another word, he moved forward. The air inside the tunnel was thick with dust and tension. As Neera followed closely behind the silent human warrior. She tried to stay calm, but her hands trembled. Every step the man took was measured, quiet, deadly. His presence alone felt like a force of nature. Above them, hidden high in orbit, the VSS Revenant had already begun Phase 2 of its mission. Athena. The ship's AI activated orbital silent strike mode, a maneuver Earth had once used to dismantle entire empires without ever revealing their presence. Tiny dark pods were released, falling silently through Virelia's sky. They carried no soldiers, no flashy weapons, just guided payloads programmed to disable communications, wipe power sources, and tear apart weapons caches with precise, cold calculation. Across the planet, the Zaan systems began to fail one by one. In their massive control center, panic replaced celebration. Alarms rang, screens flickered, officers barked orders at one another. EMP strike detected. Who's attacking? No idea, no fleet, nothing on sensors. Then a message appeared on every screen, played through every speaker. No image, no name, just a voice, human. "This is your only warning. Surrender now or be erased." Hi. Warlord Psyche smashed his fist into a console, growling with rage. "Find him, kill him. Shut that voice down." But it was too late. Dorian Reeve was already inside. He led Neera through a series of crumbled corridors, his armor scanning for movement, energy signatures, and traps. He moved like smoke, always 2 steps ahead. When Neera tried to speak, he cut her off with a glance. "Why are you helping us?" She finally asked, her voice low. "You called," he replied without turning. That was enough. "But Earth, they don't care about us anymore. They left." He paused. For the first time, he looked back. No, Earth doesn't trust the galaxy anymore, but some of us still answer. Nira didn't say anything after that. She had reached into the void, and the void had answered, with steel and fire. Back aboard the Revenant, Athena scanned the atmosphere. Enemy fleet preparing to launch. "Shall we intercept?" Dorian's voice came through the comms. "Prepare countermeasures. I'll handle the ground." Acknowledged. In one swift move, he pulled a cylindrical device from his belt and tossed it behind them. It clicked once, before the tunnel collapsed completely, cutting off any possible pursuit. Nira looked behind, eyes wide. "You're not just a soldier." "No," Dorian replied. "I'm the result of Earth's last promise." They continued moving, faster now, toward the heart of the Zarn's fortress, a towering structure carved into the side of a mountain, protected by layers of steel, energy barriers, and thousands of elite soldiers, but it wasn't prepared for him. Dorian crouched behind a wall, close enough to see the fortress entrance. 2 guards stood near the checkpoint. Nira whispered, "Are you sure?" Dorian didn't let her finish. 2 muffled shots, 2 clean kills. The guards fell without a sound. Dorian sprinted to the door, pressed his hand to the scanner, and the panel hissed open. They were inside. The fortress was huge, metal walls towering above, footsteps echoing from every direction. Patrols of Zarn's soldiers moved like clockwork, alert and armed, but they weren't alert for a human. They weren't alert for a ghost. Dorian moved through. The corridors like a shadow, never making a sound. When he engaged an enemy, it was over in a single shot. He never missed. He never hesitated. 1 target, 1 breath, 1 bullet. Behind him, Nira could hardly keep up. She had fought in dozens of battles, but this was different. She wasn't watching a soldier fight. She was watching death move. Dorian reached a massive chamber glowing with red energy and filled with 6 elite Zarn soldiers. They were bigger than the others, better trained, better armored. They raised their weapons. He raised his first. 2 went down instantly. The others scattered, but Dorian was already rolling behind a console. Shots flew past him, smashing into walls and panels. He pulled a small disc from his chest plate and tossed it. Flash. A burst of light filled the chamber. In less than 10 seconds, it was over. Dorian stood over their bodies and activated the main. "Terminal Athena," he said calmly. "Uplink complete. Yes, I now control their entire fortress grid. Good, do it." Across the fortress, all doors unlocked at once. All security feeds began looping false footage. Empty halls. Silent. Systems. No threat. The Zarn didn't know it yet, but they were blind in their own base. Back in the command chamber, Warlord Psyche was losing control. "Seal the fortress," he shouted. "Send backup." "No use," an officer screamed. "We're locked out. Something's controlling everything." Then, across every screen, the voice returned. "This is the beginning of the end. You laughed when they begged. You mocked them when they died. But now, you are alone. Earth hears everything." This was the first answer. Dorian exited the control chamber and headed toward the war room. Panic had swallowed the fortress. Officers ran in circles. Guards screamed about ghosts in the halls. No one could explain how the human had entered, or where he had gone. Nira, hidden among the outer ruins, received a new message on the beacon. "It's done. The fortress is cracked." She smiled. She couldn't help it. Just days ago, the galaxy had surrendered to darkness. Now, that darkness was breaking, 1 fortress at a time, by 1 human. Inside the main war room of the Zarn fortress, everything was falling apart. Soldiers whispered about ghosts. Screens showed false images, clear halls, empty corners, while their comrades disappeared one by one in silence. The air was thick with fear. Warlord Psyche, the proud leader of the Western Zarn. Fleets stood in the center with shaking fists. He roared, "It's just 1 human. Find him, kill him, end this madness." But no one moved, not because they didn't want to, but because none of them believed they were facing a man anymore. Somehow, the walls themselves seemed afraid. Dorian. Reeve, the last black-level Earth operative, had vanished again. His armor blended into the shadows. His movements were invisible to every camera. His footsteps made no sound. He was in the fortress, but already beyond their reach. Above, in orbit, Athena's control over Zaan systems deepened. She jammed their communications. She turned their surveillance blind. What they saw was no longer real. What they believed was already lost. And now, they were going to learn what it meant to awaken Earth's silence. Outside the fortress, Neera sat beneath the stars, watching the night sky. Then she heard it, a sound soft but deep, a humming rhythm in the clouds above. She looked up. Dots. Dozens. Of them, moving fast. No, she whispered. It can't be, but it was. High above Viralia, cloaked in perfect silence, Earth's shadow pods were falling, each one containing a single operator. No fleet, no armies, just ghosts, just like Dorian. Each pod landed without a sound, disappearing into the smoke and ruins of Zaan-occupied territory. These were the elite, Earth's finest. They didn't come to invade. They came to end. Inside, the war room, an officer screamed, "New contacts, too small to be ships." "What now?" Psyche growled. Then the explosions began. Boom, boom, boom. Silent detonations ripped through the lower levels of the fortress. Power cores shut down. Defense cannons sparked and died. Ammunition depots collapsed inward from precise charges, entire. Towers fell one by one, all from the inside. Psyche turned, eyes wide. "You told me Earth was broken. You said the humans were scattered." The officer stammered. We didn't know." On the ground, Dorian moved through the chaos like a wraith. Zaan reinforcements dropped from orbit, but something was wrong. No communications, no escape route, no backup. Everywhere they turned, humans waited in the dark. Neera heard Dorian's voice crackle in her earpiece. "You still with me?" Yes," she replied. What is happening?" "They thought I was alone," he said. "They were wrong." In the capital of the Zaan Dominion on Nalcor Prime, alarms screamed. Hundreds of dark, silent ships had appeared, now orbiting. Every major colony and fortress. No warning, no radar signals, no escape. The High Council gathered, trembling. On the screen were images of Earth's shadow fleet, black, cold ships with no heat, no sound, no mercy. One elder whispered, "Earth had no fleet." They lied. Another said, "Send a message, I'm surrender." But it was already too late. The voice came again, now across every planet, every screen, every radio in Zaan space. "You wanted Earth gone. You thought we were weak. But we watched. We waited. And now, we strike." Back in orbit, the Shadow Fleet launched its next wave. Ghost drones. Tiny machines slipped inside stations, reactors, and defense grids. No alarms, just silence. Then, explosions from within. Entire outposts blinked off the map before a single Zaan could react. On one forgotten moon, a Zaan research base lost contact with command. Minutes later, it vanished in a fireball. On the wall, before it burned, a message had been carved. "Uzmat, the children you burned, for the cities you erased. Humanity." In the ruins of Viralia, Neera stared at her beacon. "Is this revenge?" she asked softly. Dorian's voice came through, steady as ever. "No, revenge is loud. This is justice." More ships arrived above the planet. Earth's answer wasn't just power, it was silence. Controlled, precise, cold. Virelia's skies, once full of Zaan banners, now held only Earth's black insignias. The Zaan statues had fallen. Their towers lay in pieces, and the humans said nothing, because they didn't come to rule. They came to end. Back inside the Zaan High Council Hall, the last warlords begged. "We were wrong. We didn't know Earth." "Still lived! Send a message! We surrender!" Inside Earth's command vessel, orbiting above Nalcor Prime, Dorian stood beside Athena. "They're begging," she said. "Do you want to respond?" He stared at the screen. It played again, Zaan warlords kneeling, pleading, "Please, we surrender. Stop the attacks. We beg you." Dorian didn't blink. "They showed no mercy to us," he said, "to our allies, to the children on Vexor 9, the families on Growly, to Earth." He turned away, no response. "Let them live with what they've done. Let them fear what may come next." On the surface of Viralia, Neera walked through the ashes of her fallen city. The silence was complete. No sirens, no patrols, no screams, only shadows and wind. She saw a tall black flag waving in the distance. It wasn't the Zaan's. It had no symbols, no slogans, just a line carved beneath it. This was your last warning. Across the galaxy, Zaan colonies began to surrender without a fight. Some turned on their own leaders, desperate to show loyalty to Earth. But Earth didn't come to rule, they came to end. The Shadow Fleet began to disappear again, one ship at a time, back into the void. Back to the dark places where no one could find them, watching, waiting, just in case someone else forgot what fear looked like. Back at the ruins, Neera stood beside the now dead beacon. Dorian appeared beside her like a silent ghost. "It's over," she whispered. He looked up at the stars. "No, it's quiet, that's different." "Will they come back?" she asked. Dorian nodded once. "Someone always does, but now they'll think twice before waking Earth." She stared at him. "Why did you help us?" He didn't smile, he just looked at the sky. "Because someone has to stand when no one else can. That's what it means to be human." He handed her a small device. Inside it, a message. It read, "Earth is not your enemy, but if you harm our people, burn our allies, or break the peace, we will rise, and we will end you." Then, without another word, Dorian stepped into the mist and disappeared once more. From the ruined moons to the broken capitals, silence returned, and for the first time in galactic history, the stars learned to fear it.